All right, let's try this again. Good evening. Just wanted to see if you remembered. A couple things I want to say. When I started my chamber choir in Reading in 2012, in August of that year, when I was considering this idea, I got this new CD of music by Will Todd, and I think my whole plan for the concert changed. And in that first concert, I think Vox Filia sang 5 pieces by him. And then a few years later, he came and did a small residency with us. And so I will celebrate the beginning of the 11th year tomorrow night with that choir, and we decided to celebrate our first 10 years. Who better to ask to write a carol for us than Will? So tomorrow night will be a world premiere of a carol he has written for us. One of the many things I love, and see if this makes sense, is that there are many composers today who find a style, find a language that works, that is expressive, that brings them success, and then they live in that style and that way of being. Will can inhabit classical and jazz worlds with ease. And so there's this wonderful variety. I don't know if you could tell from the looks on the faces of the choir, but in the last jazz number, he just decided to improvise and make up stuff that wasn't in the music, which for a choir that is trained in the classical tradition is sort of like stealing someone's baby. It's a very uncomfortable moment. It's a thrilling thing to be able to work with someone who inhabits both worlds so fully and creates wonderful music in both worlds. And then especially thrilling to be able to bring him here and work with this choir and work with my choir at home, and then Sunday I drag him to my church, and then when he seems tired enough, I'll let him go home. But thanks very much, Will, for being here tonight and working with this group. I also want to say a little something about the Vaughan Williams. This is we're winding down the 150th anniversary of Vaughan Williams' anniversary of his birth. And so there's been a lot of Vaughan Williams performances. As I was trying to figure out what to do, I knew that people would really do a lot of his classical choral works. And certainly as a member of the Vaughan Williams Society, I could see all the big things that people were planning. One thing that I think gets overlooked a little bit, at least on this side of the Atlantic, is how much he was involved with folk music. I don't know if you know this, but around the 1880s, 90s, the rest of Europe sort of started to get tired of German supremacy in music. Every composer from every other country very often went to Germany to learn how to write and then went back home. And suddenly there was this movement, nationalist movement, that kind of swept many countries where they didn't want to have to go to Germany to study. They wanted to be able to stay at home and study and come up with their own kinds of music. And one thing they turned to was folk song. And I knew Vaughan Williams had collected folk songs. Some of the folk songs ended up in the New English Hymnal that he edited. But I was amazed to learn that he collected something like 250 folk songs and was out there. And when we say collecting, he was going out into villages, writing it down, and then making it into choral arrangements. The piece that you're about to hear, the winter section, he was asked late in his life by the English Folk Song Society to write a piece that celebrated folk music. And so that's what you're hearing. Some of the tunes might be familiar. Many of them were not to me. That Unquiet Grave, I just love that. I guess I love it because if you look at the text, it's maybe the darkest text we sang tonight. A woman who is so bereft from the loss of her husband, she's asking him to come back for one more makeout session. It's not necessarily great Christmas fare, but it's a very interesting story. And I love the fact that he's like, honey, I'm done. I would like to stay dead and not come back. You will hear in this last section, again, maybe some melodies you don't know. I just want to lift up to you the last melody we should all know. It's incredible that we don't know it. It has such great nobility and expresses such a great sentiment, and it's certainly a sentiment we want to send you out with, that you will have peace and joy and fullness in this new year. Thanks again for coming. May I also say thanks for the great variety of hat wear. It's great to look at. Thank you.